सबको अंदर कर। Akash, please play the PPT.
be starting shortly. Namaste to everyone. We, the Secretariat of Youth for Green Hydrogen and Youth of India Foundation, welcome everyone on this virtual event. And we are very thankful towards all the panelists for joining us today. And firstly, I wish you all a very happy World Youth Skills Day, which is celebrated annually on 15th of July, which focuses on the strategic importance of equipping young people with skills for employment, decent work, and entrepreneurship. The goal behind celebrating World Youth Skills Day is to achieve better socio-economic conditions for today's youth and also to make the youth self-reliant with self-employment. Today, the youth are exceptionally responsive and they just need to be encouraged, which has been done via Youth for Green Hydrogen by working towards skilling the youth, empowering them, gathering talents, and creating professional opportunities for them, such as green jobs. Since we all know that the foundation of a country, rise of the country, and the future of the country highly depends on the youth power. That is the main reason why Youth for Green Hydrogen is providing the platform for our youth in building the leadership skills and in creating awareness on green hydrogen, which has become very crucial to bring a paradigm shift in energy consumption by committing to use renewable energy across all channels. As we know, the energy transition can only be achieved with a skilled workforce commensurate along with the challenges at hand. Since renewable energy and energy efficiency can deliver a substantial amount of jobs and immediate need in many countries in the current economic crisis. Therefore, the young generation has a lot of potential to contribute to the energy transition in many ways. So, Youth for Green Hydrogen is working to make use of this entire talent pool available by tapping into the talents of youth and women to fill its growing demand for skills. Therefore, the skills and the coordinated efforts of the youth is very necessary to develop the human capital pipeline to meet the needs of the rapidly growing renewable energy sector. Today, the lack of green skills represents a significant barrier to achieve a sustainable and affordable energy system, which has been really realized and recognized by Youth for Green Hydrogen and has been working towards green job creation for the youth and making green skills development the priority area in the energy transition sector. To share an important update with all of you, last month on 5th of June, when we came together in strengthening Youth for Green Hydrogen, young people from more than 41 countries participated while we reached out to over 1 million people in green hydrogen. And we signed two historic MOUs with Green Hydrogen Organization and the G70. Over 70 plus universities came together in also leading our movement. Further, government of Namibia also announced in opening Youth for Green Hydrogen chapter in Namibia led by the respective government. This is only possible when young people come together. Now I like to hand over the mic to our dear co-founder, Mr. Sailesh Singhal. Just a quick intro about him. Mr. Sailesh is the co-founder of Youth for Green Hydrogen, which brought together network of young people from over 50 plus countries in strengthening youth leadership and participated in green hydrogen. Sailesh Singhal is the founder of Youth of India Foundation, which has several special accreditation from UN and have teams spread across 16 states in India. Shailesh has been featured in United Nations Youth Flash newsletter and has been interviewed by United Nations Web TV for his leadership in Unplastic India for bringing 1 lakh young men and women to take the pledge of eliminating the consumption of single-use plastic. He has been invited in the first ever Youth Climate Action Summit during United Nations General Assembly and called for Global Unplastic Day on 17th of September with the support of various head of state, ministers of environment, ambassador, and many more. Youth of India is also a member of C20 2022 hosted by Government of Indonesia. Earlier, Shailesh has been appointed among the White 20 community by the G20 presidency of South Arabia in 2020 and has represented India in the Youth Summit of G20 on behalf of Government of India in 2017 in Germany. His trade journey over 10,000 kilometers in talking about sustainable practices has also been published in UNICEF Connect. Last but not the least, once again, thank you so much everyone for joining us today and wish you all a very happy World Youth Skills Day. Virtual mic over to you now, Mr. Shailesh Singhal.
Emika, thank you so much. I didn't really realize that such a lovely introduction and kind introduction that you have prepared for me. Really appreciate what you've done. But first of all, thank you so much to each one of you who have joined in from across. If you would have noticed, early in the morning, we were 32 countries. Later, about 3-4 hours back, we were 40 countries. And I am so privileged and honored to share that as we speak and we close the registration, 42 countries have registered themselves. And as our team members just gave a calculation, about 38 countries participation is in the Zoom meeting forum at this very moment as well. So I think a big round of applause for each one of you for participating, for being here from your respective countries in getting skilled in Youth for Green Hydrogen. When we started this journey back in March and to where we are today, it gives a sense of happiness and a sense of humility that what potential lies for young people and when we have the intergenerational partnership. Not forgetting Eric, Ravi, who have been joining in, of course, Ramanand sir and O'Neill. The kind of extreme support that we have received over the months has really blessed us to carry forward on this journey and to bring in young people from these 42 countries who are going to make a mark and impact on this energy transition. Now, as I have been given the responsibility to give an introductory remarks to the World Youth Skills Day, I strongly believe that in the next 5 to 10 years, the world will shift to skill and attitudes-based hiring. Degree or university-based hiring will be a thing of the past. Excuse me to all the educational institutions who are partnering with us, of course. Solving, collaboration, organizational communication, and creativity are the skills that are most required and are the hardest to find in today. Posing the greatest challenges, we need to redesign our education system and the skilling programs to the development of this fundamental and the core traits that is required in the future workforce. For example, in the same ways in which we are focusing on equipping our future workforces with green skills and green certified courses through AI and AR, we need to equally focus on including sustainability as a horizontal layer that sits as a foundation for all the thematic groups. Of course, later in the day, we would also hear that we need to develop certified courses, and some of them are very, Ramanan sir and our very honorable Minister of Education, Dr. Ranjan, would also be announcing the importance on creating and developing the certified course on green hydrogen in skilling youth towards greener jobs as a core part of the curriculum and not as a specialized subject. Because I believe that we don't need climate specialists in the future. Chemica doesn't have to be known as a climate specialist or a green hydrogen specialist. We need engineers who are dedicated in green hydrogen technology, lawyers who are well acquainted with environmental law, business leaders who are efficiently deploying green energy, and politicians who keep on check on the environment as a cross-cutting theme in all the policies deployed. To give a background on when the Youth Skills Day launched, it was back in the year 2014 when the United Nations General Assembly declared the Youth Skills Day. And we are honored to also have Mr. Ravi Karkara, who has worked with the government of Sri Lanka in 2014 for the 14th World Youth Conference to getting up the National Youth Skills Day to become a Global Youth Skills Day then in July 15. And this celebrating the strategic importance of equipping young people with skills for employment, decent work, and entrepreneurship. And since then, the Skills Day have focused for a dialogue between young people, technical and vocational education training institutions. Today, very rightly remarked by Secretary General of United Nations, young people are drivers of change, and we must fully be engaged in decisions affecting their future. And we will hear more about it from O'Neill as well. Guided by the United Nations Youth 2030 strategy, I urge everyone to act for youth skills development as a priority today and beyond. Lastly, let us remember that the recent estimates suggest that 600 million jobs would have to be created over the next 15 years to meet the youth employment needs. And according to the International Renewable Energy Agency, the off-grid value chain alone, including sales, marketing, installation, and services, could create at least 4.5 million jobs globally by 2030. And this global energy investment is set to increase by 8% in 2022 to reach the USD of $2.4 trillion. As the youth population will grow by more than 78 million between 2021 and 2030, it thus becomes very essential in curating skills and developing skill sets and modules that will train you and I to take up the future that we are so passionate about in skilling young people, in getting green skills towards green jobs, in creating green future, and we all are ready for it. So thank you so much once again for being here. And now I would like to introduce our the guest speaker and our very Mr. Philippe Malebranche. Mr. Philippe Malebranche got an engineering degree at the École Centrale de Paris. He started working in 1980 in the South Pacific on rural electrification projects with renewable energies. During 8 years, he joined afterwards successively the French Department of Energy as advisor on renewable energy, policy, photowatt, the French PV cell and modules manufacturer until 2004. Then he participated to the setting of INES, the French Solar Energy Research Institute, which was hosting 400 researchers involved in all the value chain of solar energy. and where his position eventually was General Director. It is an honor to also announce that he is joined the International Solar Alliance as an additional Director General. So Philip's main fields of expertise are PV materials, PV cells and modules, PV systems, storage technologies and systems, solar thermal power systems, zero energy buildings, and smart grids. Of course, his international involvements have been many, and it is such an honor to welcome you, sir, here today with us in energizing young people on how solar could part to become the entire integral part of this hydrogen in making sure that we reach our goal of 1.5 degrees Celsius. Sir, over to you.
Okay, thank you for this very kind introduction. So yes, I'm going to talk about solar hydrogen. But first, I would like just to say a few words about the International Solar Alliance, where I'm working with now as a Deputy Director General. And I would like to say that this alliance is dedicated to the development of solar energy. It's a treaty-based organization, which currently has 107 member countries. It's increasing every week. And I'm sure we will have all countries in the future, because solar energy is becoming a key, a critical source of energy for the future. Next slide. It all started in 2015 at COP21 in Paris. It was launched in 2015 and founded in beginning of year 2018. And since then, we are participating to several events. That's the last one with Prime Minister Modi at COP26. And to come to an end with this ISA introduction, we are working mainly with in line with SDG 7, Universal Energy Access, and SDG 13 about climate change. And this is where hydrogen is going to play a key role. You know, we are fully dedicated to development of solar energy, and the solar hydrogen program was launched end of last year, in last October. So it's pretty new. We have not done too much in this sector, but to me, it was really mandatory to work on that, because so far we were dealing with solar electricity, solar power. So you can deal with the power sector, but even if we decarbonate all the power sector, there is still, I would say, it's only 20, 22, 25% of the carbon dioxide emission. And all the rest is coming from the transportation sector, the agriculture, and the industrial sector. Especially the most consuming sector are the steel industry, or all the metallurgical, siderurgical industry, fertilizer, refineries, cement industry. They are all in the range of 5% of the total CO2, global CO2 emission worldwide. So dealing with only the 20–25% of contribution of the power sector is not enough. We need to address the fossil fuel consumption of the hard-to-abate sector. And as well, for the power sector, we will need in the future large-scale storage system. And for that, hydrogen or its derivative like ammonia or any methanol or whatever will be clearly part of the solution. So we have to discuss with all type of stakeholders and to solve the various issues. When you talk about, usually people talk about green hydrogen made with renewables. It's mainly solar and wind can be used in higher latitude. I mean, in Northern Europe or in the south of South America, you know, South Chile, South Argentina, Tasmania in Australia. But wind is a bit less spread all over the continent. For instance, in Africa or in the Middle East, wind may be useful in some coast, but solar is much more spread over a larger area. So we'll have to design a specific solar hydrogen manufacturing plant, looking at specific system design, how to manage all the electrolyzer, how to increase an hour of operation, how to be grid connected or not. We are not obliged to be grid connected, and it may save some cost. And for the future, we can already start with the technology as it is now, but of course we will always need further innovation. And later on, we will have to look at hydrogen transportation and use in many sectors. As being involved in solar, we are looking at two types of application. That's on the right side of my slide. We are looking at some application which are in the range of safety of supply. I mean, remote location like small island countries in the Pacific. It's location where you have to spend 2, 3, 4 liters of fuel to bring 1 liter of fuel somewhere. So here, the cost of fuel is not so important, or it's easier to be cost competitive in such a situation. So for application in this range of kilowatt, hundreds of kilowatt, up to megawatt scale, hydrogen can be locally produced as a fuel for all this mini-grid project, any type of remote location. It already exists. It's expensive. It's nevertheless cost competitive in some remote location. But the main market will be with the second topic for the energy transition, what I was talking about, hard to abate sector. It will come with the gigawatt scale, where hydrogen will be considered as a commodity and will reach 1.5, some say even less in the future. But first, let's switch to €2 or $2 per kg. We have to start with that. In the middle, you know, it's the job or the task that ISA is doing, looking at example, lesson learned from this example, organizing webinar, and releasing guidelines in order to initiate a project in specific country. So far, we are focusing for COP27 on producing guidelines on how to set up first project in a country. You know, there's a kind of chicken and egg problem with hydrogen, green hydrogen. Is electrolyzer, people say, oh, we have to wait to have the pipelines, and pipelines builder are saying we have to wait to have the electrolyzer in place to have the hydrogen being produced. So we need to start, and we think there's a method to start. Let me speed up a little bit. I have 3-4 more slides. So why are we talking about solar hydrogen? Solar PV is the cheapest source of electricity in many countries. There's no question about that. Therefore, it will enable, because hydrogen produced with electrolyzer, the cost comes from the cost of electricity. You need, whatever you are doing, you need 50 kilowatt hour to produce 1 kg of hydrogen. Solar is cheapest. You know, the world record is almost 1 US cent, but let's take 2 US cent per kilowatt hour. If you need 50, it means that you have at least $1 of electricity per kg. Plus, you need to add the cost of the electrolyzer, all the project, the compressor. If you need transportation, then the pipeline. And that's why, so far, with electricity in the range of, rather in the range of 8 or 10 euro US cent, that's why so far you are more in the range of $5 to $7 per kg, which is not cost competitive with hydrogen made with fossil fuel. So you see all the potential of solar hydrogen here. And it will be a new sources of energy for developing countries without any other resource. It will support the energy sector development. It will increase energy security. It will also create export opportunities. From a solar perspective, we will have to look at the technical design of the PV array, PV system, integrated with the electrolyzer, increasing the number of operating hours, and we will also have to look at standards. I will skip this one about the cost. It's to show that we have the potential to go to $2 per kg, even a bit lower. These are the map of the country where you may think of solar hydrogen. I mean the orange and red part, northern and southern hemisphere. That was a slide from IEA. One slide for IRENA. It's a network, whole network of pipelines. It's a vision for 2050 in Africa. As ISA, we prefer to focus on a short-term approach, how to start in a country, not waiting for a network of pipeline, but how to start in a country where you have some potential of takers like steel manufacturer, fertilizer manufacturer, refineries. You need to look at what are the volume they would need, what would be the prices they could commit to. So you need to look at the potential of taker. You need to look at where you would put the PV array, and then you have to cross to make a cross analysis to see if you have the best location to start with a project. Then you would propose scenario to start with this project with selected off-takers, and then you can carry on with the mid to long-term vision, gradually building a network of pipeline and contributing to this. So within this approach, final step is to look at design option, the framework condition. You were talking about training people about technical issue, but also about legal issue, very important. Financing issue, very, very important as well. But it will bring so many socio-economic, environmental advantage that it's to me it's a no-brainer. So I will finish with that. This solar hydrogen as a molecule is a critical complement to the current solar electrons. It will make a huge market. It will more than double or triple the future part or contribution of solar to the power system. You know, hydrogen for transportation, hydrogen for the industry will be a huge market. We will then be able to supply many applications at all scales, from kilowatt, megawatt to the gigawatt scale. And it will cap the prices of fossil fuel, gas, oil, coal, forever at a lower price than it is now. So to me, it's clearly a huge topic a topic of huge interest to all young talents. And with that, I thank you for your attention.
Yeah, thank you so much. The kind of overall presentation that you have shared with us. First of all, accept our humblest of gratitude to you for accepting our invitation. You have been so supportive for a few months now, and we realize that this is an honor to be hosting you and inviting you today. As you rightly mentioned in your presentation, a journey of 1,000 steps begin with one step. Lao Suo. And you are absolutely correct. We didn't realize when we started the journey back in March on Youth for Green Hydrogen that we would be advancing such steps in reaching out, in connecting, in convening young people from across the world. In summation to the events that happened in May, in June, and happening now in July, we have collectively brought about 75 countries' young people on board in learning, in skilling, in strengthening youth leadership and participation in green hydrogen. And I think when we talk about green hydrogen, we cannot really move out and forget what you have been championing, that is solar hydrogen. Solar, as you rightly mentioned, is cheap, is easily accessible. And I think it becomes a duty, as you mentioned in the last line, talents of young people. This talents of young people takes up the responsibility in learning the lessons from the past and then seeing how we can advance it in the future. In conducting webinars, workshops, dialogue, discussions, in strengthening, in supporting, in also suggesting on the guidelines that may be prepared, of course, by the people sitting on the table, and then taking up the initiatives in driving solar hydrogen towards this greener initiative. When you said about 1.5 degrees Celsius could be much lesser, I was somehow happy to hear that there is also a scope in setting our targets way before that. And I think thank you so much for also putting up the necessity of skilling up and how we can start in our individual country as well with little of those aspects. I think that was very important. When we talk about skilling up, it is also about how can we take the next step. And I think your entire presentation and deliberation really helped a lot of us in understanding how we can do that. So thank you so much, Philip, sir, for joining in, for being here with us today. May I also request, because one of our friends, messaged me first, sent me a chat personally. If we could get your presentation, then we could circulate it across to all our networks, which may be helpful for young people who want to advance and start up the project on solar hydrogen. So thank you so much, sir. Now, next in line, of course, we have Honorable Minister of Education and Minister of External Affairs, who is the Minister of State for the Government of India, Dr. Ranjan Rajkumar Singh. Dr. Ranjan Rajkumar, when he heard about the Youth for Green Hydrogen movement, he was like, the first thing that we should do is set up certificate courses under the National Education Policy of 2022 launched by the Government of India then. And I think as soon as he made that comment of what I could really say, and it was just 2 days back, I said, sir, would you mind sharing a short message or would you mind being participating in this event? Of course, due to his schedule, he couldn't join in at such a short notice, but he has sent a video message and he encourages all of us to create this first certificate course on Youth for Green Hydrogen in skilling young people. So maybe have his video message, please. We are not able to hear the voice channel. Could you please look at that?
warm greeting to all. Green hydrogen is hydrogen produced by way of electrolysis of water using renewable energy, including renewable energy, which has been banked and the hydrogen produced from biomass. Thus, use of hydrogen energy does not lead to carbon emissions. To promote green hydrogen, our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, launched the National Hydrogen Mission on India's 75th Independence Day on 15th August 2021. Thereafter, we have also framed our green hydrogen policy to meet climate targets and making India a green hydrogen hub. Green hydrogen is a part of the energy transition to ensure India's commitment for reduction of fossil fuel. To promote producers of green hydrogen, our government has allowed waiver of interstate transmission charges for a period of 25 years if such a project is commissioned before 30 June 2025. Also, manufacturing zones and renewable energy parks will be set up for manufacturers of green hydrogen. Our government is also setting up a single window system to ensure all statutory clearances and permissions required for manufacture, transportation, storage, and distribution of green hydrogen, preferably within a period of 30 days from the date of application. The Government of India is supporting a research, development, and demonstration programs on hydrogen energy and fuel. Under this project are being supported in industrial, academic, and research institutions to address challenges in production of hydrogen from renewable energy sources. These safe and efficient storage and its utilization for energy as transport application through combustion fuel cell. I'm happy to know that with respect to transportation of green hydrogen, major work has been supported to Banaras University, IIT Delhi, and Mahindra, and it has resulted in development and demonstration of internal combustion engines, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and minibuses that turn on hydrogen fuel. Also, I have been informed that 2 hydrogen refueling stations have
All right. Thank you so much for that, Honorable Minister. I think somehow the very part on he focusing on how a single portal is being set in India on green hydrogen, and for how all of you could also look at businesses with India also really presents that factor. And I think as a Minister of Education, his commitment towards the skilling or youth for green hydrogen would somehow be very supportive as we lead our efforts ahead. Just a quick mention, we also have the co-founder Eric Solam Guru and Ravi Karkara joined in. So thank you so much to both of you for joining in. Now we have amidst us just Aisha Suleiman, who hails from Nigeria. Aisha Suleiman is a WASCAL scholar currently studying bioenergy, biofuels, and green hydrogen technology. Her interest, of course, cuts across clean energy transition as it relates to climate action. Her focus has been on sustainability for a very long time, and from her undergraduate studies, the chemistry in Nigeria, to taking up on studying on green hydrogen technology and bioenergy, really focuses on and bringing how Africa as a whole come together in strengthening the youth leadership in green hydrogen. So Aisha, over to you, please.
Okay, good morning. Am I audible?
Yes, Aisha, please go ahead.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. From any part of the world you might be joining. Namaste. I had to I had to add that. So as you rightly said, my name is Aisha Suleiman. I'm from Nigeria. And first I would like to start by saying Happy World Youth Skills Day to all the youth across the globe. Today is a very important day because it involves conversation about why it is necessary for youth to be trained in green hydrogen skills. But before I proceed, I would like to explain briefly what green hydrogen technology is all about, because I believe that there are probably some people on this call that do not have an idea of what technology is about. So green hydrogen is a fuel that is produced from splitting water molecule into green fuel and oxygen using renewable energy electricity. Hydrogen has been used as fuel before now, but fossil fuel has always been the source of electricity. So it is important for us to note that if the source of power to split this water molecule into green hydrogen and oxygen is not renewable energy, such as wind, solar, or biomass, then we cannot regard the corresponding hydrogen as green hydrogen. So over the years, we've been affected by climate change, the effects, people in the global north, global south, were all affected by the effects of climate change. And in a bid to flatten the curve or reduce the effects of climate change, we are now looking for alternative solution to help us flatten the curve and achieve net zero by 2050. So green hydrogen has been regarded and is the fuel of the future because it's going to play an important role in helping us to decarbonize most of these sectors that have proven difficult to decarbonize. Talk of the aviation sector, we talk of the transportation sector, and even the industries that are contributing to greenhouse gas emission, which causes climate change. So green hydrogen is a sustainable fuel because it has, passed the test of the 3 P's of sustainability, which includes profit, people, and planet, because it has proven not to emit greenhouse gases and cause climate change. It has also been creating job opportunities among the youth. And research and collaboration and this kind of conversation we're having today are currently ongoing to ensure that green hydrogen becomes cost competitive, because that's one of the, should I say, downside that we're currently experiencing with green hydrogen technology. But the good news is over the years, the cost of solar energy and wind energy have reduced like half or even more than half, because if you say like 2 decades ago, the number of people that are able to afford solar panels in their house have increased because the price has reduced and most people are able to afford it. And this is the renewable energy electricity that we need to power the electrolyzer that we can use to split this water. So green hydrogen is going to play an important role in decarbonizing most of this sector and help us achieve net zero in 2050. Another problem we're experiencing globally, apart from climate change, is that, especially in developing countries and underdeveloped countries, is unemployment among the youth. And green hydrogen also has the potential to remedy this issue. How do I mean by this? From the point of production to the point of storage and even application, green hydrogen has the potential to create jobs. We talk of the companies producing the electrolyzers, at the point of splitting the water molecule, the transportation, the storage, and even the research and development. Green hydrogen has the potential to create job opportunities for the youth, especially in all of this sector. I'll give an example of, to buttress my point on why it is important for youth to receive necessary skills and training in green hydrogen technology. I'll give an example of a company who runs solely on fossil fuel, and are planning to transition to a clean energy source. They would require the expertise of energy transition manager, sustainability manager, research and development team, and a host of other job opportunities. But what happens when these job opportunities are available and there are no qualified people to take up these roles? So that is why it is important for youth to be trained in green hydrogen skills. Partnership have been ongoing. One which is peculiar is the partnership between Europe, Germany to be precise, and Sub-Saharan Africa, and even Namibia. They've partnered to train youth in capacity building in green hydrogen technology. This is to ensure that we have more youths to come up and take up these roles, these vacant spaces that green hydrogen technology has the potential to create jobs. So I'll stop here and I'll be willing to take questions during the Q&A session. So, shukriya.
Oh, Aisha, you of course, I don't have words. How did you do that? I think your Hindi somehow surpasses and makes us believe that you are quite a local born yourself here. So thank you so much, Aisha, for your message. And I think what you really mentioned on the 3 Ps somehow is so crucial and important. I think it is the leadership and strengthening, as you mentioned, by different leaders, including Namibia. And if I remember that rightly, the technical advisor to the Ministry of Mines, Mr. Franz Kalenga, while he was there in the last event, he proactively, with the support of the Ministry of Mines and the government of Namibia, announced in starting Youth for Green Hydrogen chapter in Namibia, led and supported by the government. And I think that proactiveness and that strengthening that also was mentioned in Sir Philip's presentation on the roadmap for the Africa by 2050, which was by a report by Irina. I think this proactiveness and strengthening somehow makes us believe that how young people have the potential, only the platform once created and provided, we could overpass in strengthening and building the vision that our elders have been setting up in the international forums and strengthening the discussion. So again, thank you so much, Aisha, for your message on skills, World Youth Skills Day. Our journey of MOUs have been very strengthening. And as our mentor, our dear co-founder, Eric, always mentioned, signing off MOU is not the first, is just the first step and not the last. And I think with that message in mind, always making sure that we move with baby steps in creating and envisaging the energy transition process as we could. Today, once again, we have amidst us a very recognized college from the northeastern part of India called the Inspiria Campus, Knowledge Campus, the Inspiria College. And the assistant professor from Inspiria College is here to, of course, announce one of these MOUs on strengthening youth for green hydrogen. So may I have the
Am I audible, Shailesh?
Yes, Mr. Jaikant, please.
Namaste to everyone, respected distinguished guests, friend, and very happy World Youth Skill Day to all of you from Inspiria Knowledge Campus. Inspiria Knowledge Campus is an educational institution situated at foothills of Himalayas in the state of West Bengal, India. It is affiliated to Maulana Abul Kalam Azad University of Technology. Inspiria Knowledge Campus is extended in a 5-acre landmass with varieties of flora and fauna, making it one of the green campuses in the city of Siliguri. Inspiria Knowledge Campus is dedicated to sustainability, which is reflected in its various initiatives and practices, like usage of green furnitures in the campus, grey water treatment system, use of solar panel for lighting the campus, grey water treatment systems, and graduation garden ceremony, which is one of the unique initiative, and the afforestation programs, prohibition of single-use plastics, in the campus, spreading of environmental awareness among the local communities through the Sustainability Club of Inspiria. Inspiria Knowledge Campus is dedicated to nurturing environmental values, ethics, and leadership among its students. On behalf of Inspiria Knowledge Campus Siliguri, I, Jaikant Mandal, Assistant Professor in the Department of Computer Science, also acting additional responsibility of Program Officer of NSS Unit at Inspiria, is very delighted and happy to announce MOU, Memorandum of Understanding between Youth for Green Hydrogen and Inspiria Knowledge Campus Siliguri in this auspicious occasion of World Youth Skill Day. Inspiria is committed to establish a dedicated club for green hydrogen for spreading awareness among local youth. Also, as the theme of this World Youth Skill Day 2022 is transforming youth skill for the future, keeping this skill in mind, we also commit ourselves to develop a certified course in skilling youth for a green hydrogen as we extend this partnership with Youth for Green Hydrogen. I sincerely thank co-founder of Youth for Green Hydrogen, Mr. Sailesh Ji, for providing this auspicious opportunity to Inspiria Knowledge Campus in partnering for a great initiative for better, secure future for the world. Thank you, everyone. Over to you, Shailesh Ji.
Yes, Chandan, could we quickly have
As Shailesh Ji mentioned, that MOU is just the first step, and we look forward to take great initiative in this region and to skilling youth for in this initiative for green hydrogen. Thank you, Shailesh Ji.
Thank you so much, Jaikant, and the entire team of the Inspiria Knowledge Campus for coming on this MOU and creating what we really believe, as always, Ravi and Eric mentioned, to create certified courses for young people in leading this movement. And thank you so much. You know, this comes as a huge surprise for me as well, that our Rahul sir somehow felt that this is an urgent need, and you could announce that, Mr. Jaikant, on this very interesting and historic moment for all of us. Thank you so much again. Now, of course, I will not delay much, and we will have our co-founder who was part of launching this Youth for Green Hydrogen in March from India, a very known Eric Solheim. Eric Solheim is a well-known global leader on environment and development, as well as an experienced peace negotiator. He served as Norwegian Minister of Environment and International Development. During that period, he also initiated the global program for conservation of rainforests and brought through huge game-changing national legislation among the Biodiversity Act and the legislation to protect the Oslo city forest. If you get a chance to visit Oslo and if you see the trees being protected, and the forest being protected, you could think that it is because of Mr. Eric, of course. He brought Norwegian development assistance to 1%, which was the highest in the world. Eric sir has always been a chair of the OECD Development Assistance Committee, the main body for the world donors, as well as the 6th executive director of United Nations Environment Program. He led the peace efforts in Sri Lanka as the main negotiator of the peace process and played a pivotal and a vital role in peace efforts in Nepal, Myanmar, and Sudan. Eric is also a senior advisor to the World Resource Institute and president of Belt and Road Green Development Institute in Beijing. He's also the mentor of Global Alliance for Sustainable Planet, advisor to Youth Green Hydrogen, co-founder to Youth for Green Hydrogen, top paper company, and other top papers company in Indonesia, and the co-chair for Trillion, a great green blockchain company in Hong Kong. So Eric sir, over to you, please.
The most important, Salesh, was that I joined you for this meeting in Siliguri in March. It was a very, let's say, I agree, it was a modest start. Siliguri is seen as a quite small city in India. Of course, in Europe, it would have been a large city, 1 million or 1.5 million. It's a major city. But you brought together maybe 100 young people in Siliguri to start youth for green hydrogen. And already after 3 or 4 months, it's on the way to become a global MOUs movement. Today, 25 nations are around the table, and we have major contributions from Nigeria and so many other parts of the world. So this is really, really exciting, and it shows the important leadership young people will provide for the green transformation. I think everyone listening to this conversation know that we are in a triple environment crisis. Climate is getting hotter by the day. We are having a major pollution crisis in cities, many parts of the world, and we are destroying large part of nature, wiping out other important species. This needs to stop. And the good news, of course, is that we have all the policies, all the technologies, all the money we need to change these. And young people will need to be in the driving seat. Without young people, this transformation will not happen, because young people tend to be more innovative, they tend to lead mass movements, and they will drive the change, forcing politicians and business to change. And young people can drive this mass movement, but they can also follow Gandhiji, be the change you want to see in the world. We can all do quite a lot also in our private life to set the example for others and to lead others. Some examples: we can all do tree planting in our garden. We can ask it to happen at the campus if you are a student, in the city if you are living in a town. Wherever we do, let's campaign for tree planting. We can all move into a circular economy. We cannot just throw away all our cell phones and buy new ones. We need to force a new economy where we use them over and over again in a circular economy. We cannot throw away all our clothing. Again, a circular economy will solve that problem. And plastic was mentioned here. Let's get into a circular economy for plastics. We need to move into clean transportation, electric vehicles, 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler. If you buy one, please make sure it's an electric one. If your family buys one, or your friends or neighbors, please tell them to buy an electric vehicle. And please use public transport and go biking or walking. All these are areas which helps. And of course, we can all help the energy transformation. Every parking lot in the world, every roof in the world, every university in the world, we can put up solar panels and move into the new renewable energy revolution. So there is so much young people can do to lead in the political and business sphere, and to be an example in the world to lead others. And green hydrogen, of course, is one of the key technologies we would need for the future. We can all 2-wheelers, 3-wheelers, normal cars, they can go electric. But as it stands now, we will need green hydrogen for heavy vehicles, for shipping, for aviation, for steel industry, for fertilizer. Maybe 1/4 of the energy in a decade or two into the future will be green hydrogen. And that's an enormous opportunity, because it can all be completely clean. That's why we're not just talking about hydrogen. Hydrogen can also be made by fossil fuels, even from coal. But what we want is, of course, clean green hydrogen made from solar, from wind, or from hydropower. That's why we made in Barcelona in May a definition of green hydrogen to force this green hydrogen revolution in the world. And good news is that young people are in the lead in this revolution. And the other good news is that developing countries are in the lead. For very, very long, people were normally expecting the United States or Europe, or NGOs from Europe or the United States to lead the world. Well, that's the 20th century. That's the past. The 21st century, developing nations are leading. and Youth for Green Hydrogen, founded in India with members from developing world, is leading the youth movement in this area. The two biggest developing nations in the world, China and India, are also in the lead in developing the technology. China will very soon in the province of Inner Mongolia produce 1 million tons of green hydrogen, which can be transported from some of the ports in the neighborhood to global markets or to other Chinese markets. And I'm sure we see now, basically all over China, you see green hydrogen coming up. And in India, as was mentioned, Prime Minister Modi has made the green hydrogen challenge for India. And the big captains of Indian industry has all responded favorably. And Indian young people like Sailesh are pushing this revolution. And I'm very sure that India will be a lead nation producing green hydrogen at home, but also investing in green hydrogen in other parts of the world. But Namibia, Egypt, Argentina, there are many other developing nations now leading this green transformation. Of course, at this historical juncture, everyone is basically focusing on the war in Ukraine, but the war in Ukraine will also rapidly supercharge the green hydrogen revolution, because some nations want to be independent of Russia. All nations want to be independent on the volatile prices of energy in the world, and all nations want to be more self-sufficient when it comes to energy. And green hydrogen is a way to do that, because it can be based on the sun, on the wind, and on hydropower. These are all domestic resources everywhere in the world. So thank you to all of you. You have joined this exciting time, join Youth for Green Hydrogen, and please push this revolution in your home country. And please also be part of this revolution in the global sense, together with Sailesh and everyone else in the organization. Thank you for all you're doing. And I'm so excited that this will be a really, really big change in the world in the 21st century. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Eksa, for such an encouraging message. I think when we launched that back in India with you, it was you who moved. It was a dedication that Ravi and I wanted to give it to you for your leadership in advancing climate activists across the world. And I remember it very rightly well while I was part of one of the units program. The kind of support that you have always rendered to young people across the globe is beyond words, and we all give you a big round of applause and heart and deep gratitude to you for everything that you do for us. Thank you so much for that. And of course, your message on how young people from developing nations, young people from across the globe have now come together in creating this intergenerational partnership where young people like me, like O'Neill, like Steen, and so many others are getting chance from across the world, from the world leaders, specifically like you, in supporting and advancing such energy transition and leading climate action. So thank you so much once again, Eric sir, for being here with us. Now we have with us another prominent personality from India who was the first for more in creating the innovation mission, which actually led to innovation and strengthening of entrepreneurship by skilling young people across the country. Mr. Ramanathan has served as the first mission director of the Atal Innovation Mission and has been the additional secretary at the Niti Aayog, which is a national institution of transforming India organization developed to creating policies towards implementing them, and then also making sure that they act as a watchdog in getting them progress ahead. A flagship national innovation and entrepreneurship initiative launched by the Prime Minister's office in the Government of India. As a mission director, Sir Ramanan has been instrumental in the launch and execution of several nationwide innovation and entrepreneurship initiatives, resulting in 10,000 plus Atal Tinkering Labs established in schools nationwide, with 8,700 currently operational in 650 districts of the country, with 4 million students getting to use these innovative technologies like 3D printers, AIs, robotics, IoT, electronics, and different skill sets as well. Further, 75 plus Atal incubation centers have been selected, which are operational in 68 plus universities, industries with 2,050 startups. 640 women-led startups are there. Then he has been instrumental in strengthening 20 Atal Community Innovation Center being established in tier 2, tier 3 cities, and of course, the rural part of the country as well. Again, he has developed 56 Atal New India Arise challenge to create challenge winners, selected creating make in India products, service innovations in making it Atmanirbhar Bharat from going local, from being vocal for local to taking it global. He has been, of course, the largest mentors of change networks with over 5,000 networks nationwide to mentor school students and startups. Mr. Ramanan has previously been the managing director and CEO of CMC Limited, a subsidiary of the globally acclaimed Tata Consultancy Services. Under his leadership, CMC's share price grew over 2,100%, having its operating profits over 1,388%, leading to its successful amalgamation into TCS in 2015. Being a Harvard Business School alumni, he has been accredited in the sustainability leadership by Cambridge University and has a doctorate awarded by the Gujarat Law Society. He has been awarded time and again for outstanding CEO and National Digilist Award, many across the country. And he has been instrumental in being the board member of Israel India Innovation Forum. He has been the chair of New Zealand Trade Innovation Enterprises and the board member of Indo-US Technology Trade Forum and a former member of Tata Group Innovation Forum. Ramanan sir, over to you to listen how we can take up this leadership in advancing the scaling up towards just and sustainable resource governance in renewable energy for future generations. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Shailesh, for that very generous introduction. And thank you so much for also giving me an opportunity to participate amongst this galaxy of speakers and learn from them today about what is happening across the world and the initiatives across the world in green hydrogen and skilling for green hydrogen. Indeed, this is a topic that should be not only deliberated by many, but should also be followed by many, as we are doing right now. And I want to compliment you, first of all, Shailesh, for having set up this organization and taken it as a global imperative, not just a local national imperative, but a global imperative, because that is what this problem is all about. And that is where solutions, innovations, entrepreneurship, and the ability to effect change is so very necessary and so very important. The great Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see. And indeed, that is the responsibility of the youth of today for the betterment of tomorrow. We are, after all, living in a world, and we in India, for example, we have 1.4 billion people in our country. More than 65% of our country is under 35 years old. More than 50% of our country is under 25 years old. In Africa, we have 60% of the youth who by 2050 will be having 830 million young youth straddling across the country. We have 1.4 million schools in our country. We have more than 10,500 engineering and related institutions. We have over 39,000 colleges, and we have 150 million young students in India who are going to be entering into the workplace over the next 5 to 10 years. At the same time, we have seen the devastating impact that COVID-19, a simple virus that paralyzed countries across the world, that created grievous disruption to supply chains across the world, that created grievous disruption to lives and livelihoods, and that created a fear of uncertainty of what other pandemics are there in the horizon. What about other disruptive national lockdowns under whose effects we are all still reeling? How do we create solutions and prevent the migration crisis that it created in a country like India, where millions of people who flock to 8 tier 1 cities. Remember, this is a country where we have 650,000 villages. We have over 715 districts. We have over 8,000 small towns and cities. And yet people flock to 8 tier 1 cities like Bombay, Madras, Chennai, Calcutta, and so on and so forth, to be able to find their livelihoods, to be able to improve their quality of lives. When we cannot have this as a sustainable solution for India or for the rest of the world. 1.4 billion people amongst the 7 billion plus planet is a sizable number. And if we are not able to harness this tremendous demographic dividend that we enjoy, the youth power that we enjoy, the energy that is coursing through our nation in the form of youth, and if you're not able to convert and transform that into a powerful force of creating solutions for tomorrow, it would have been our loss. And that is why it is so very important for all of us to engage in this conversation, because it is not just COVID-19 which has created this fear of uncertainty. It is issues like climate change, which is now becoming a reality. We are all in different parts of the world already suffering from the effects of climate change. And we do not know what a devastating crisis of climate change, when it escalates and accelerates, can create on our planet. And that is why all the previous speakers who have been alluding to people, planet, and profit, the triple profit initiative, is so very important for every one of us to consider. And that is why an initiative like yours, which is trying to ensure that people first become aware of not only the challenges that we have in tomorrow's world, the youth of today are aware of the challenges of tomorrow and are creating innovative solutions for the world of tomorrow. Let's take India, for example. We have 715 districts, out of which 115 districts are called aspirational districts, because they are at the bottom of the pyramid in terms of basic access to healthcare, education, clean drinking water, sanitation, waste management, affordable housing, quality of lives, and livelihoods. Now, unless these 115 aspirational districts are taken to a different level, no amount of GDP growth of this country is going to be beneficial, and it is all going to run out in the long run. And now when you take the world at large, and when you take countries like Africa and the emerging economies and China and so on, and when you add the fact that all of these young people are going to be a powerful force, we indeed have a solution to a problem that is facing us. And that is the World Skills Day. We are launching programs like this to build the awareness and to make them more innovative and more entrepreneurial. This is why in India, we launched the Atal Innovation Mission under the auspices of the Niti Aayog, the National Institution for Transforming India, because nothing is more important than to be able to galvanize our youth into creating innovative solutions for tomorrow. We have so far had the benefit of rote learning in our universities and in our schools. We always studied for getting good marks in an exam, get into a good university, get good marks into a university and get into a good job. And that job would be with large companies, whether it is IBM or Google or TCS or Wipro or Infosys and so on. Yes, that has helped us, India, to become a powerful player in the knowledge economy of the world. We have a $150 billion ITES industry that has sprung out of this focus on our educational system. But that is not going to take us into the world of tomorrow, where the challenges of tomorrow are very different from the challenges of yesterday. And those challenges, including climate change, including the need for green hydrogen, the need for knowing and being aware and how to leverage green skills, the ability to create green jobs, the ability for every corporate organization in the world to look at their product, their service, and how that can become a green product and a green service is so very important and paramount to everyone else in the world. And that is why the Atal Innovation Mission has launched thousands of tinkering labs in schools across the country. Now, what is the use of a tinkering lab? The main issue is our people, our young students are not being taught to be innovative and become creative, which is a fundamental aspect of their capability. You know, when we are young and when we are small, we question everything. We look at the world completely differently from the way we look at once we are trained and we grow up and we start putting limitations on ourselves in how we can contribute and change the world. That is why we do not become the change that we want to see. We think others should be driving the change, but the change has to be driven by the youth of the country. And for that, they have to be aware that they can become these agents of change by becoming knowledgeable about the latest tools and technologies upon which solutions of change are being wrought upon the world. And that's why today technology is playing such an important role and such a valuable role in being able to bring that empowerment and those skills to the table, because it is becoming affordable, accessible, available, and advanced. Technologies like 3D printing, robotics, IoT, miniaturized electronics, augmented virtual reality, cloud services, all and 5G technologies, they are making you think of solutions right from your garage, from the small kirana store that we have in our country, the small shops, and be able to reach across to the rest of the world because of the digital transformations that are happening. 3D printing is enabling you to conceptualize, design, define, create products and manufacture them right in front of your eyes, from your small, humble classroom, or from the lab in your school, or from the kirana store that I talked about, or even from the confines of your home. Robotics is driving the next degree of productivity and automation. And you are having number of sensor technologies that is integrating man, machine, device, soil, space, so that you are able to gather vital information and be able to act upon that information, preventing emission, creating renewable energy solutions, creating solar solutions, and so on and so forth. And therefore, we are also at a priceless moment in our history, in the history of evolution of mankind. We are at a priceless moment where we are able to leverage the accumulated knowledge over the years, the availability of advanced technologies and affordable technologies at our fingertips, and the awareness that is growing across the world about the importance of climate change, sustainable development goals, the UN goals that are so very, that need to be embraced by everyone and to be able to act upon them in an innovative, entrepreneurial manner. And we'll be able to unleash the creativity of this youth that we are talking about. They can imagine new solutions. They don't know any boundaries. They don't accept any limitations. They are the people who can drive change. And therefore, the World Youth Skills Day today is such an important platform and an important day for every one of us to galvanize that energy and convert that and transform it into a powerful force that can create a better world, a better planet for all of us to live in. The Adult Innovation Mission, through its thousands of tinkering labs, introduced at grade 6, mind you, is now making young children aware that they can play and tinker with these technologies in an atmosphere of fun and learning, and be able to create solutions for problems they see in and around the communities that they live in. When they are walking from their school to their home, when they are going from their home to the nearest mall, or to the hospital, or to the playground, they are trained to look at the world with fresh eyes, identify problems that they see, and come together in small groups, tinker with the technologies, and create solutions for being able to create a better world. And each one of their innovation is aligned with a United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, one or more of them. That is how the skilling is taking place, through practical intervention, through group discussions, through acquisition of skills, which are 21st century skills in terms of not just technology tinkering, but also communication, leadership, the ability to be able to work with each other, and the ability to reach across to other parts of the globe and work with students and co-innovate. This is how the Atal Innovation Mission has now created collaboration between students, in India, from Sikkim to Seattle, or say San Francisco in the United States, or to Sweden in Europe. The students are co-innovating through challenges that are being put up on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, so that young students, irrespective of their background, their geography, their location, their diversity, are able to come together and apply that creative diversity that is required to create solutions of tomorrow. And then when they go into the universities, we have world-class incubators, which will create world-class startups. So the youth of tomorrow in India, and I'm sure in many other parts of the world, now have the opportunity of accessing these incubators and unleashing their creativity in creating an organization that they know will make a difference to the planet, to the people, to the profits, and to the economy, as well as to themselves. And therefore, we have now over 800 incubators in our country with over 55,000 startups. We have had 100 unicorns born in the last 5 years. The Global Innovation Index of India has swung from a point of 81 5 years ago to a point of 46 today. And that has been possible because of the energy and the enthusiasm of the youth in embracing innovation and becoming entrepreneurs. It is not surprising to me that over the last 3 years, just when we have had the beginnings of the COVID-19 crisis, more than 60 unicorns were born in India. And in what areas? Many of those are in fundamental areas aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, whether they are in renewable energy, in healthcare, in education, using EdTech, and so on and so forth, solar energy, and so on. These are the skills that are required, and these are the innovations that are required in India and in other parts of the world to be able to drive for green hydrogen and green skills and green jobs. So there is an opportunity. This tremendous convergence of advanced computing, advanced communications, as well as advanced data processing, big data analytics. This convergence is enabling us to create tech-driven solutions for tomorrow's world. At the same time, the awareness that this is a possibility today by various countries who are collaborating and communicating with each other. Like you have today a global platform with more than 42 countries registered onto your youth energy, youth for hydrogen platform. That is what is required to drive co-innovation and build awareness. And there is support from an economic point of view because of the growing economies of various countries. Their ability to support innovation and entrepreneurship becomes a possibility. And that is why initiatives like the Atal Innovation Mission or the DST Innovation, the Department of Science and Technology, and various other innovation entrepreneurship initiatives in India, when backed up with such platforms, is going to have a positive impact. The great Swami Vivekananda said that take one idea, whatever be that idea, an idea that will create a change. Take one idea, think of it, dream it, breathe it, work on it, and it will surely flower and blossom into a solution that will create an impact. But for that, he also said, you have to have tremendous belief in yourself. I encourage the entire youth in the world who are part of this particular platform or who are listening or who have an opportunity to listen to this. Take inspiration from his words. He said, if you do not believe in if you have belief in 1,000 gods and goddesses, but do not have belief in yourself, you are doomed. So we need to have extraordinary belief in ourselves. Yes, we can. That should be the attitude. Yes, we will become the outcome. So we want to make sure that every one of us has tremendous belief that we can be the agents of change, that the youth of today can become successful with the startups and the entrepreneurial organizations that they create for tomorrow, acquiring the skills on the latest of technologies that make a difference. But mind you, no innovation, no product, or no service will last if it is not sustainable, if it is not creating the platforms that everyone will be looking for in the future. Because we need the air to breathe, to be clean. We need the water to drink, to be sufficient and pure. And we need the ability to be able to enhance that in a very, very multiplied manner or with a multiplier effect. So unless we do all of that, we will not be successful. And so as once again, I end with the words of Swami Vivekananda, let us all arise, awake, and stop not till our goals are reached. Arise to the challenges, but more importantly, the opportunities that the world of today presents for us to unleash our creative ability and our creative skills. Awaken from within us the latent talent that has always been there with us, but which has not found expression because of self-limitations that we have imposed on ourselves, or maybe society and others have imposed on us. And let us stop not till the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and more importantly, in your case, the green hydrogen goals of the world are reached. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to share a few thoughts on this occasion.
Thank you so much, Ramanand sir, for this lovely remarks. I think your entire discourse not only remained as also on green hydrogen, but also gave a chance and motivated all of us in a way that your deep reach experiences that you come with. Thank you so much for all your work that you have been doing on Atal Innovation Mission that you have done, of course, in creating such tremendous work that we have also been part of in the past. So thank you so much once again. Now, Sean, if you don't mind, could we have O'Neill speak? I think she just messaged that she has a hard stop in next 15 minutes. With your permission, Sean.
No problem.
Thank you so much, Sean. You're very kind. We have now O'Neill Masamba, who is the manager of World Bank Group Youth Summit 2022. Ms. Masamba, who is a dual citizen from France and the Republic of Congo, joined the World Bank Group in February 2020 and works as a legal consultant in the PPP Public-Private Partnership Group. Before being appointed to the manager of the World Bank Group Youth Summit, she served as content co-lead and a moderator of the World Bank Youth Summit in 2021 and attended the WBG Youth Summit as a delegate in 2019. Just to add, as I was sharing with Masamba, I was part of the World Bank Youth Summit as a delegate myself back in the year 2016. Ms. Masamba is also an attorney admitted to practice in the state of New York. Prior to joining the World Bank Group, she has worked for over 3 years as a construction lawyer in Canada, where she was responsible for negotiating major infrastructure projects with North and South America, with the government and local contractors. She values the importance of making legal services available to all and accessible to all. And so for over 7 years, she has been providing free legal services to refugees and victims of domestic violence. And the work that she does are an inspiration for everyone who is joining us today. She did some pro bono work in Montreal, Canada, and Paris, France to assist refugees seeking asylum, and in Washington, D.C. with Amnesty International and domestic violence rates of the D.C. Superior Court. As a champion of youth, education, and inclusion, Ms. Masamba has been invited on several occasions to take part of conversations that highlights the importance of inclusion of minorities and inspire youth to be the actors of change. Such conversations include a fireside chat with Dr. Sandri Okaro as a part of the Youth Summit 2021, how to empower youth to affect change. She also holds a master's degrees and LLM in business and finance law for the George Washington University Law School, and a master's degree in economics and business law from the University Paris. She holds a bachelor's degree in law and a bachelor's degree in economics from University Paris in France. Ms. Masamba, over to you to hear more on how we could take up promoting a just and an inclusive youth participation through intergenerational efforts in leading climate action as well. Over to you, Masamba.
Thank you very much for this very warm introduction, and apologies again to Sean for taking his spot, but I'm going to try to push see if I can delay my meeting so I can at least answer some questions after all the presentation are done, if there are any. So I'll be working on that after my presentation. But good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our audience watching from all over the world. As the manager of the World Bank Group Youth Summit, I am truly honored and humbled to have been invited by the Youth for Green Hydrogen movement to take part in this really exciting conversation on the World Youth Skills Day. Each speaker has been really inspiring with their participation in the event. They have really highlighted the importance of youth-led initiatives and the inclusion of youth in the decision-making process to tackle the climate change crisis and address issues of development. And this is really what the World Bank Group Youth Summit seeks to do as well. Indeed, the World Bank Group Youth Summit is the biggest event organized by youth for youth at the World Bank Group to engage with youth globally on the most pressing topics facing their generation. And with this objective in mind this year, we have decided to focus our conversation on inclusion with a summit themed Unlocking the Power of Inclusion for Equitable Growth. With this theme, we sought to explore inclusion under 3 buckets: social inclusion, economic inclusion, and environmental inclusion, and to determine the role of inclusion in building back better from ongoing crisis and achieving an equitable growth. So when talking about inclusion as the driver of an equitable growth, we want to explore solutions that improve the terms on which individuals and groups can take part in society, improving the ability, opportunity, and dignity of those disadvantaged on the basis of their identity. That is what the World Bank Group defines as social inclusion. We also want to ensure that each person, regardless of their social or economic background or the community they represent, have an equitable access to economic opportunities. That is what we define as economic inclusion. Finally, when exploring the power of inclusion for an equitable growth, we also want to look into solutions that participate in building green and resilient communities and ensuring no communities are left behind to tackle environmental degradation and climate change. That is what we qualify as environmental inclusion. And so if you take the theme of the World Bank Group Youth Summit 2022 in the context of our event today, thriving for environmental inclusion is also ensuring that youth actively participate in the fight against climate change, not only through their own initiatives, but also through the support of decision makers and global actors to ensure that their voices are heard, their needs are taken into consideration, and their inputs are valued to develop and implement solutions to effectively tackle the climate change crisis. And one way to achieve and to address the climate change crisis is the transition toward renewable energies. Indeed, renewable energies minimize carbon pollution and have a much lower impact on our environment. But in addition to the impact on the environment, transitioning to renewable energies will effectively participate in boosting our economies. Indeed, according to a recent feature story from the World Bank Group, jobs in the renewable energy sector reached 11.1.5 million globally in 2019, and a shift to low carbon resilient economies could create over 200 million net new jobs by 2030 in 24 major emerging market economies if they focus on green investment this decade. And in a post-COVID-19 era, job creation is a key consideration since the global unemployment rate has been exacerbated by the pandemic. And so just to be clear about unemployment rate, I mean the number of people in working age are currently unemployed, but are actively looking for jobs divided by the total labor force. And according to statistics from the United Nations, by 2020, the number of people unemployed worldwide increased by 33 million, reaching 220 million. And youth and women were especially hit hard by this unemployment, with employment losses of 8.7% and 5% respectively in 2020, compared to 3.7% for adults and 3.9% for men. So knowing that renewable energies offer opportunities for job creation, it is key to provide youth with the necessary skills to competitively place themselves on the market. Indeed, there was a really interesting consultation conducted by the UNDP that revealed that entry points in clean energy careers are really limited for young people. Hence, again, the importance of providing them with skills. But skilling youth for renewable energies is also a way to increase youth-led entrepreneurship in this field. This year, for instance, as part of the Youth Summit, we organized a pitch competition won by Stanley Anigbobu from Nigeria, who represented the team Light Ed. Light Ed is a lamp and solar charging kit for people in rural communities. And this initiative that he led really tackled the issue of access to electricity for rural communities in Nigeria. And they received a lot of recognition and award from all over the world, including a Diana Award a few years ago, thus showing that skilling youth like himself and like the team he's working with can really make an impact globally. But if the benefits of skilling youth for renewable energies go beyond job creation and stimulating the economy, we have seen how youth have leveraged their energy and willingness to effect change to take action in the fight against climate change. While providing skills to youth in renewable energy is a way to support them in their advocacy. It's a way to help them better organize their activism, better plan the outreach of their action, but also ensure that they provide solid solutions to decision makers. But as I said, I said it earlier when I defined environmental inclusion. To appropriately tackle climate change, it is necessary to take into consideration local and marginalized communities. And sometimes companies and government not effectively disseminate their efforts for clean energy to those communities. And it is where the youth can play a really crucial role. According to a consultation from the UNDP, the one I mentioned earlier, youth leaders have a key role to play in building partnerships with local and diverse communities to design the pathways for including community voices in technology adaptation strategies. So again, that's another reason why it's important to provide skills to youth for renewable energy. Finally, skilling youth for renewable energy is also crucial because because a high number of youth worldwide still live in regions with the greatest energy needs, thus obtaining skills in renewable energy is not only a way for them to address the climate crisis, but it's also a way to address social development issues. Now, obviously, when talking about skilling youth for renewable energies, we're talking about educating and providing trainings to youth in that field. And to support this effort, decision makers and global actors should take action. The World Bank Group, for instance, has been a great supporter of this effort. There was a report released this year by the World Bank called Renewable Energy Jobs and Sector Skills Mapping for Pakistan that highlighted a study commissioned by the World Bank to facilitate cohesive renewable energy workforce planning and identify skills gaps that can inhibit renewable energy investments in Pakistan. Additionally, in Cabo Verde, the World Bank co-financed a project with the Canada Clean Energy Forest Climate Facility and the Global Infrastructure Facility to help increase Cabo Verde's renewable energy generation capacity and reduce power system losses, ultimately providing more sustainable and affordable electricity services to the population and contributing to reducing CO2 emissions. And this project also includes investment to support intervention to reduce the gender gap in employment and skill developments in the energy sector. So you can see that initiatives are undertaken to really support skilling youth and minorities by decision makers worldwide. But I also believe that we should never underestimate the power of the private sector and local communities to make a change. And skilling youth for regional energies is a way to make that change. Now, let's not forget, obviously, that our event is being organized by the Youth for Green Hydrogen movement. So I would like to shift our focus for a minute on green hydrogen. And Aisha Suleiman gave an excellent presentation on green hydrogen earlier today. And this part of my remarks at least will kind of echo what she said. But first, to refresh your memory, I'll give a really summary definition of green hydrogen, which is defined as hydrogen produced by splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen using renewable electricity. And actually, green hydrogen has been featured in a number of emissions reduction pledges at the UN Climate Conference COP26, thus showing the consideration that is being given by global change makers on the impact green hydrogen can have in the transition to renewable energies. And there is actually an interesting report by the World Bank Group titled Green Hydrogen for Developing Countries that highlights the benefit of green hydrogen for developing countries, but also show that developing countries with good renewable energy resources could produce green hydrogen locally, generating economic opportunities and increasing energy security by reducing exposures to oil price volatility and supply disruptions. So really, green hydrogen offers opportunities to have access to reliable and affordable sources of energy to power economic activities, thus creating opportunities for youth within their economies and globally. But there are still some challenges associated with the use of green hydrogen. This report highlights, for instance, some challenges in terms of implementation and infrastructure requirements. And even though some countries have the capacity to implement and conduct green hydrogen projects, challenges remain regarding access to individuals with the technical knowledge and expertise to handle, install, and maintain hydrogen and hydrogen systems. And so that's really how we circle back to the importance of skilling youth to be at the forefront of the renewable energy transition. According to some statistics from the UN, the world is home to 1.8 billion young people between the age of 10 to 24, the largest generation of youth in history. Young people are increasingly aware of the challenges and risks presented by the climate crisis and the opportunity to achieve sustainable development, and have proven really their effectiveness in getting things done. So skilling youth is a way to strengthen their impact and their action. And this is where governments and international institutions play a key role. Indeed, according to the Interparliamentary Union report on youth participation in national parliaments, at least 50% of the world's population is under 30, yet only 2.6% of the parliamentarians are under 30. The statistics clearly show that the youth are underrepresented in the decision-making process within their local communities and globally, and this is the reason why it is key to develop solutions to increase their engagement and get their voices heard. But what I would like to say to the youth for watching today is also not to wait for global decision makers to give you a seat at the table. Create your own table and pave the way and show them how it should be done, and they will follow. Thank you so much for your attention.
Onel, thank you so much. I am literally short of words in expressing my sincerest of gratitude to you in making sure to be here on this platform. While we started to have a discussion, of course, on LinkedIn, the kind of support and kind of energy that you radiated really made us believe that how you as a young person working in the World Bank group really means in coming out and in strengthening and supporting such initiatives on it. And while you mentioned about the IPU report of 50% of the world population, which is below 30, but unfortunately we see only 2% part of it, the decision-making process. All I could have it in my heart or in my mind is that when would be the day when we would have young people like you be part of this decision-making process, where we could really enhance and mobilize more young people across the globe in revolving around the leadership that you would manifest and reflect when you would have such a responsibility bestowed upon you. And I think while you mentioned about the inclusion on social, economic, and financial, I think that remains very important, because inclusion just not is about social, but is also about economical and is also about environmental. And when you were talking in the entire discourse, Onil, I am being honest, I could only think back to the world's first youth declaration on green hydrogen, of which, of course, even Ravi sir and so many more were part of it. And it is important that we talk about marginalized communities. It is important that we include marginalized communities in this entire discourse, because the world cannot repeat the same mistake when we brought oil and fossil fuels. We cannot leave out marginalized communities from this discourse, because they are the ones who are most affected, and that is the areas where pipelines pass through. So of course, we had this pointer on our youth declaration as well. And I'm so happy that you have been championing this, leading this from the front. And we would look forward for more mentorship, support, and in future, how we could work together. Thank you so much, Onil, once again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Onil. Now we have Amistas, who has been very kind in allowing Onil to speak. But now we have seen Holman. Mr. Seen has a double major bachelor's degree in international relations and affairs as a bachelor's degree in development studies. He completed his education at an international recognized university, Monash, Australia, South Africa, where he has gained his part of his work experience in the supply chain sector, working at the Longmeadow Distribution Center as a junior planning and monitor intern, also being a research fellow coordinator for the local government expanded public programs and works. Seen sir has studied beginner's level Spanish, and he has recently completed his postgraduate honors degree in international development studies as well. He was awarded with a scholarship based on his academic achievements. Currently, Seen sir is the trade and the industry specialist in the Embassy of the Republic, Pretoria in South Africa. So we would be very glad to hear on how youth from Africa could contribute largely to the fifth industrial green revolution in leading to green trade and employment and greener opportunities. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Sailesh. I hope I'm audible. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible. Yes, sir, but I think we missed out on your video now. Yeah, perfect.
Okay. I thank you very much for such a great opportunity to be part of the speakers amongst, of course, such great panelists. I think it's a huge privilege for myself as a young leader in the international trade space, as well as a young leader in climate change, as in particular to fostering a climate justice charter and ensuring that we as youth contribute towards decarbonization and contribute towards achieving, policies that can implement issues that can promote sustainable path towards a net zero future. So today, tonight, depending on which country you are at, Silesh has asked me to just discuss how would youth from Africa contribute largely to the fifth industrial revolution with regards to green evolution in leading green trade and employment opportunities. So as dynamic as the question may be, I think I'll begin with my opening statement that with each passing day, global alarms ring loud about looming specter of climate change, each which threatens the planet's future. In a race against time, the momentum is picking up for exploring innovations that will reduce humanity's carbon footprint, especially in the energy sector. So this is not surprising, as the sector in electricity, heating and cooling, and the transport sector is the largest contributor to global greenhouse gas emissions at a percentage of 73%. So for many African countries, the question is not how to reduce carbon footprint, but because on the overall contribution that greenhouse gas emissions has on the African continent is only at a percentage of 4%, which is very low. But then instead, what certain countries are looking at and what certain African countries are looking at is the innovation behind the ability to sustain and the ability to enhance or harness sustainability in its existing resources to meet growing demand for energy, for economic development, and to lift citizens out of poverty while following a sustainable path to a net zero future. But then how do we then strike that balance? You know, how do you then strike a balance of growing a demand for alternative renewable energy sources, economic development, and empowering the youth, empowering women in particular, empowering citizens to get out of poverty, in particular to, you know, what African countries are challenged by. So some African countries, and I'll discuss two case studies that I just want to get into in attempt to also, you know, tackle the question on green trade and employment opportunities. So some African countries are looking towards green hydrogen as a potential technology to reduce their reliance on fossil fuels, accelerate access to electricity for millions of Africans by increasing the exploitation of renewable energy resources and to meet their global climate commitments. We all know about the case study of Namibia, which in 2021 announced $9.4 billion into a hydrogen project scheduled to enter production in 2026. So the initial target is to generate 2 gigawatts of renewable energy electricity capacity that will ultimately be available for regional and global markets. And another case study, of course, is the 8.5 billion US dollars that was promised at the UN climate change conference in Glasgow, COP26, to support South Africa's just transition towards a low emission development path, which specifies a goal to develop new economic opportunities such as green hydrogen. Just recently, this year in February 2022, the president of South Africa announced plans to support a pipeline of green hydrogen projects worth 17.8 billion US dollars over the next decade. These cases, of course, are similar to Kenya, Morocco, and Nigeria, who are at various stages of developing plans to integrate green hydrogen into their energy mixes. So what does this then say, you know, in answering, of course, this dynamic question is that as youth, it is important for us, if we see that our certain African countries, our respective African countries, are promoting certain projects that have to do with green hydrogen, we then need to be in those spaces. The youth needs to be in those places in means of creating employment opportunities by means of pressurizing government in policy implementation, as well as making sure that there's an implementation to plan, you know, and as well as making sure that we pressurize our global leaders in implementing these, because we have great policies when it comes to green hydrogen as African countries. But the most important aspect that comes is the implementation. And this is where the youth, I believe that we need to get into those spaces, in particular to creating employment opportunities for us as youth and for skilled youth, you know. So I think also with issues to global governance, when it comes to matters that have to do with the fifth green industrial revolution, when it comes to matters of green trade, in particular to now the Free Africa Trade Agreement that's coming up. We need to be in those spaces, as youth to achieve, decarbonization. And I think with factors such as globalization, where here I am in South Africa, and here are the other students as well as other people that are logged in here, to show that how great participation it is in the sense of globalization, where we live in a globalized society, that it actually is possible that we can achieve a decarbonization. So on the matter of green trade and leading green trade, and matter of youth leading green trade, I think we need to be in the space of the Free Africa Trade Agreement, holding our government accountable towards the policies that they implement with regards to renewable energy, with regards to the green hydrogen energy projects that are being implemented. So having said that, I think with those case studies that I mentioned, that it's quite clear that there is a need, indeed, in a global race to develop green hydrogen. And for the first time, Africa is in one of the starting lines with developed countries. So governments around the world are promoting projects for domestic and export markets of green hydrogen, and billions of dollars are being or are expected to be invested over the next few years. So if these billions in dollars are expected to be invested in the next few years, then the question then comes when it comes to, where is the youth with regards to this? Africa has the largest or the youngest population in the world, with 70% of sub-Saharan Africa being under the age of 30. Such a high number of young people is an opportunity for the continent's growth, but only if, these new generations of youth, these new generations of skilled youth are empowered to realize the best potential. So I think the most important thing is that in our African countries, implementing these green energy initiatives, there needs to be initiatives in terms of policy frameworks, whereby we are able to include our youth in regards to implementing the plans of achieving decarbonization. So having said that, I think as much as the question was very much dynamic, I think I've answered it to my best of ability, especially to the green trade. That's actually going to be a very important factor in regards to the Africa Free Trade Agreement that we need to utilize. So be that as it may, like many investment decisions, the question is whether it is worthwhile to dedicate part of Africa's limited resources to developing green hydrogen as a viable solution for Africa's energy deficit. But it comes down to the cost, the risk, and the reward matrix. And of course, the answer to this question is, in particular from an African perspective, is that one must first look at the maturity of the technology itself when it comes to the green hydrogen. The green hydrogen perspective. So, of course, these caveats, however, should not dissuade African countries to producing green hydrogen, but require, of course, visionary leadership, aspirational policy making, and significant additional investments, in particular to financing, which should be the first to develop the continent's vast potential for renewable energy, and maybe even capitalize on its endowment of mineral resources to manufacture fuel cells, and moreover, once produced, hydrogen, green or otherwise, it can contribute towards economic development. And without the youth involvement in all these aspects, it's not going to be that much sustainable if we want to achieve the SDGs for 2030. So finally, in my conclusion, I think the ground must be prepared, to create a specialized workforce, a workforce that includes skilled youth, that includes youth in terms of women, that includes marginalized communities and invest in related infrastructure to be a first mover as the technology matures, you know. Of course, while there are many voices that tell Africans that green hydrogen is too aspirational, given the continent's married priorities and married problems, the words of Madiba still stick with me that, you know, Nelson Mandela once said that it always seems impossible until it's done. So I think having said that, I would like to thank Silesh for such a great opportunity to be one of the speakers amongst such astounding speakers as well. I think we have really you know, been part of such a great initiative, and I hope going forward we can connect and as youth be able to foster the change that we want to see, of course, in the world. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sean, for your, you know, diverse remarks, and specifically on how the leadership of African youth could lead to the fifth industrial green revolution. I think what you really mentioned about the limited resources and the financing would really engage in creating that atmosphere and leading green hydrogen and the green energy transition. Sean, when you talked about Nelson Mandela, it only reminds me that in the next 3 days, we are celebrating the Nelson Mandela Day as well. And while we talk about Africa very recently after 5th June, if I'm not wrong, on 6th or 7th of June, we had 20th of June, in fact, we had the preparatory meeting of African Youth for Green Hydrogen Alliance, as I shared that with you earlier, where 13 countries, young people from 13 African countries came together in strengthening this and forming this group on the African Youth for Green Hydrogen Alliance. Having said that, I realized the potential of Africa in green hydrogen is magnanimous and it's huge. Of course, while you mentioned that, you brought that all together. And just adding up, if I am not wrong, South Africa's ambition is to become the net exporter of green hydrogen. And it has been looking a huge possibility in exporting it to the Asian market, where the president, you know, the last October, President Cyril Ramaphosa announced a green hydrogen export economic zone. And then, of course, Namibia's plan to the $9.4 billion green hydrogen project is expected to create about 15,000 jobs in construction and 3,000 permanent positions, 90% to be filled by the Namibians. There are a lot more projects in Egypt, Mauritius, and Morocco, and many more, of course. And I think your deliberation somehow made us believe that how together potentials of young people can create a magnanimous change. And your learning and you being here really focuses on the third aspect of what we talk about, the green jobs. Of course, we are skilled. You know, Ministry of Education provides that skill. The government provides that skill. But what next? We look for green jobs. Of course, green hydrogen or green renewables is one source that we're all looking at. And then what green jobs or green opportunities or green trade or green economic opportunities is what we would create. And seeing your deliberations really made sure in talking about such aspects and aspirations that could collectively lead young people in sustainable modules as well. Thank you so much, Singh, for being here.
Pleasure, thank you.
As we come towards the closing of the session on the special occasion of the World Youth Skills Day, would we have anyone who would have some questions for any of our panelists who are still here? Please feel free to raise your hand and we would unmute you to speak your question. We have seen Jaykant and any others who could answer it. And if you would have any other questions, please feel free to mail it to us and we will get back to you with an appropriate answer from that concerned speaker as well, if he or she is not here at this moment. Perfect. So it looks like we had an amazing session and everyone had the entire clarity. Okay. Now could we have the closing remarks by K. Ravi, who is the co-founder for Youth for Green Hydrogen. And as I mentioned earlier, I am so glad to introduce the next speaker who has mentored many youth initiatives, including myself. Mr. Kalkara, if many of you would not know, have worked with the government of Sri Lanka in creating the 14th World Youth conference, gotching up the National Youth Skills Day in becoming the Global Youth Skills Day. And I'm so happy that he's also a co-founder of the Youth for Green Hydrogen. And in spite of his being sick, he took out time to send this important message. And also on his professional background, Mr. Ravi has over 20 years of experience working for and with children, youth, and women's development issues with focus on social inclusion, social justice, and inclusive participation. He has extensive experience in undertaking research, development of knowledge management systems, and effective communication tools. He has been the senior advisor on the strategic partnerships and advocacy to the Deputy Executive Director of UN Women, has been the global advisor on youth, consultant global advisor on youth, UN Habitat, and been a manager of Global Secretariat on Child and Young People's Participation, UNICEF. Of course, he has been the regional program manager for the South and Central Asia Save the Children in Sweden. With this, he carries with core competencies, including result-based program management, strategy development and implementation, grants and financial management, capacity development in training, strengthening strategic alliances. May we have the closing remarks by our very co-founder, Mr. Ravi Karkara.
Congratulations on the World Youth Skills Day. I remember about a decade ago when we worked with the government of Sri Lanka on taking their national initiative at a global level. Many wondered, why do we need a day dedicated on skilling young women and young men? And I think it's exactly that's the most important answer that the Green Youth Hydrogen Movement is providing. The Youth for Green Hydrogen, co-created by Sailesh and others, is really an important need of the hour, demanding that the skills linked to the fourth and fifth industrial revolution must be providing answers through green technology. We must find a way to counter the oil and gas and coal production so that greener answers to the human never-ending demand for energy can be fulfilled. So we must use this occasion on July 15th to call for skilling of young women and young men to provide innovation, skills, entrepreneurship, and in that process create employment for many, many, many young people across the world by ensuring the skills that they acquire, the knowledge, the attitude, and the skills that results in economic development that is sustainable and green. So congratulations to all of you, and we really look forward to the growing partnership on Youth for Green Hydrogen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ravi, sir, for your message. I think with this, we come towards the end of the session. All of you have been very patient in being here till the end. For some of us, it is quite late, 11 in the night, and I am so glad that young people from across the world have joined in still with this dedication of being here on this World Youth Skills Day. Of course, if any one of you would have any suggestions, any questions, which we could take, please feel free to mail it to us on the given email ID that was on the chat box, youth4gh2@gmail.com. Any one of you would want to be part of our team, would want to expand it in your state, in your country, please reach out to us once again. While our team was tweeting up and talking about it in social media, we had more countries, even Canada, joining in, and we had messaged that wouldn't Canada be part of this Youth for Green Hydrogen? So I think this ever increasing count of countries' participation from 42 is as of now officially 43, but we'll see how far that goes again in the next event when we do it on August 12th on the occasion of International Youth Day. And we would have more partnerships, more young people more like Seen, more like Aisha, like O'Neill, like Eric, like Ravi being here in strengthening this ever-going movement. With this, namaste, thank you, shukriyada, shukran. to everyone for being here. Thank you so much for your contribution on this special occasion of World Youth Skills Day. Let us continue this momentum and journey in getting skilled, in getting certified, in getting trained in this green evolution that we all have welcomed with our folded hands. Namaste, green hydrogen. Thank you so much once again. If all of you permit, we could have a quick group photograph. If all of you could maybe switch on the cameras who are comfortable, more than happy to. Okay, perfect. So if anyone more wants to switch on the cameras. Before leaving, if anyone wants to quickly share one or two, if anyone wants to share something, please unmute yourself, and then, or else we could just. Okay, perfect. I don't think we have any final thoughts. Thank you so much once again. Have a good evening, good night, and see you all soon on August 12th on the occasion of International Youth Day. Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.